Eddie Brock is right in the middle of a messy life. He's trying to be a responsible adult, he's juggling work, an on-again, off-again relationship with Anne Weying, and most importantly, he shares an apartment and a digestive system with an extra-dimensional parasite named Venom. The movie wastes no time reminding you that cohabitation with a giant alien that eats your shoes and occasionally your lunch can complicate even the simplest plans. Eddie wants normal, a steady job, maybe a proposal to Anne, and a life that doesn't involve public smashing. Venom wants snacks, chaos, and really doesn't get the whole subtlety thing. The result is comedic friction with actual stakes. After the shaky piece that ended the first film, Eddie and Venom are trying to find a new rhythm. Venom's personality is loud, childish, and oddly protective. He's territorial. He eats Eddie's ring when Eddie tries to propose, classic Venom move, and he insists on watching bad action movies. Eddie, forever the slightly jaded journalist, hopes to repair his life and career. He's freelancing and scraping together work when a story lands in front of him that looks like a career shot, an Access interview with notorious serial killer Cletus Cassidy. Cletus is charismatic in a very wrong way, played with creepy enthusiasm by Woody Harrelson, and he has a girlfriend, Frances Barrison, who's not only devoted but dangerous in her own right. She can make an entire room fracture with sound. Eddie goes into the interview like a reporter with nothing to lose, and like any decent horror thriller setup, rules are immediately broken. Venom thinks it's a terrible idea, but curiosity, karma, and plot requirements pull Eddie into Cletus's orbit. Cletus, a man who clearly enjoys theatrics and manipulation, delights in baiting Eddie and Venom. There's a moment of grotesque intimacy in that cell, blood, bites, and something slipping between hosts that the movie uses to seed trouble. Without getting too technical, the encounter releases a separate red-hued symbiote. Think of it as Venom's unruly offspring, faster, meaner, and without any of Venom's growing moral squirming. That red symbiote finds a host in Cletus, and the birth of Carnage is violent and messy, and exactly the escalation the story needs. Once Cletus breaks free, and he does in circumstances that mix chaos and dark comedy, he becomes a one-man spree of carnage, which, true to his name, he carries out with a relish. He isn't just a murderer, he's a performance artist of mayhem, orchestrating gruesome scenes that show how completely unhinged he is. Frances, often called Shriek because of her destructive sonic powers, amplifies the terror. Her sound-based abilities undermine symbiotes in new and dangerous ways, and when she and Cletus go on the run, they're not just killing, they're trying to make some warped idea of love last forever. They want each other, even if that means obliterating anyone in the way. Meanwhile, life for Eddie without the ring isn't going great. The lost proposal becomes a running gag and a symbol. It's not so much about the jewelry as it is about Eddie's attempts to do the right thing in a world that keeps punting the ball. Anne moves on with her life, and Eddie does the very human thing. He tries to be someone who deserves her back. He's also trying to keep Venom from getting them both killed. That's harder than it sounds, because their bond is not a neat romantic comedy setup. It's messy, loud, and occasionally poisonous. Venom's troublemaking actually draws the bad kind of attention, the type with chainsaws and extremely poor impulse control. The movie layers in dark humor, especially in the dynamic between Eddie and Venom. They argue like an old married couple in the middle of a highway fight. Venom growls and makes blunt, childlike observations. Eddie replies with exasperation that feels very everyday. These gut-level jokes are balanced by scenes of real dread, bodies piling up, police on edge, and the horrifying empathy Cletus has for the pain he causes. Carnage is a souped-up predator with zero respect for human life, and that makes him a clear, escalating threat. As Carnage's rampage becomes national news, law enforcement and the authorities scramble. There are narrow escapes, close calls, and moments that let Eddie and Venom show a bolder side to their partnership. They get into fights with bad men, public property, and their own sense of identity. A key turning point arrives when Carnage captures someone important. The film leans into this to make the stakes personal. Eddie is forced to confront what he's become, a host who can help save people if he can only get Venom to cooperate at the same time. What follows is a growing sense of teamwork, not the tidy kind you'll see in superhero team-ups, but a grubby, reluctant codependence that feels oddly honest. There are sequences that play like a horror picture, and others that lean into slapstick violence. Shriek's sonic power is used imaginatively. The filmmakers stage scenes where sound itself becomes a weapon, and our heroes have to think laterally. The movie also gives you moments that matter emotionally. Eddie's attempts at redemption, his conversations with Anne that are halting and real, and small flashes of tenderness between him and Venom that never wholly undermine Venom's appetite for chaos. Those beats are why the film isn't just a series of fights, it's about an odd little family trying to hold together. The climax cranks the volume up. There's a location, dramatic and visually resonant, where Carnage and Shriek try to make a grand statement. They want to use Shriek's abilities to cause catastrophic sonic resonance, and Carnage's bloodlust makes the idea all the more terrifying. Eddie and Venom arrive, battered but stubborn. The fight is a messy, kinetic ballet, symbiotes tearing buildings and emotions apart, Eddie trying to pull off something brave, and Venom trying to be more than an appetite. What saves them is not a perfect plan, but a desperate willingness to sacrifice for one another. Venom steps up in a way that surprises both Eddie and you, the viewer. It's messy, it's loud, and it ends with the sort of emotional payoff where two misfits recognize they need each other to survive. In the aftermath, the immediate danger is cleaned up, but the movie doesn't try to resolve everything neatly. Relationships are forever altered. Eddie's connection with Anne finds a bittersweet note. There's affection, but also an awareness that life is different now. Venom, for all his appetite and bravado, grows a little. He's still Venom, but there are moments where empathy leaks through the teeth. Carnage and Shriek are handled in a way that closes the chapter but leaves a deliciously menacing residue for anyone paying attention. You get the sense that chaos is never fully gone. And yes, there's a mid-credit tease and an end-credit wink that reward fans without overstaying their welcome. The film doubles down on its central point. Being monstrous doesn't automatically make you a villain, and being human doesn't automatically make you heroic. Eddie and Venom are both of those things at once, and their partnership is the messy, heartbreaking, sometimes hilarious center of it all. The film gives you enough horror and spectacle to satisfy the action junkies while keeping its emotional heartbeat in the bristly, begrudging bond between host and symbiote. If you're watching for straight-up scares and gore, you'll get your fill. If you're watching for character moments, especially a weird, codependent bromance with a fully voiced mouth living in a chest, you'll get that too. The film knows what it is: part monster movie, part odd couple comedy, and part pulpy revenge tale. It doesn't always do every part perfectly, but it's committed to its tone, and it leans into the absurdity with charm. By the time credits roll, you're rooting for them in ways that are kind of unexpected, which is the whole point. Life with Venom is loud, often terrible, and occasionally heroic, much like being human if you squint.